When we talk about hormones, most people think of fertility, libido, or maybe menopause. But the hypothalamic-Pituitary-Gonadal axis, or HPG axis, is far more than that. It's one of the most ancient and fundamental rhythms of life, governing not just reproduction, but energy, mood, motivation, and even how we relate to others and ourselves. Today I want to explore how this axis operates, how the dance of estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone interfaces with the psyche, how stress and trauma can reshape it, how the HPG axis interacts with other systems like the gut, thyroid, and adrenal glands, and how we can begin to restore balance using a holistic lens. Before moving forward, I just want to let you know that in the description below you'll find links to the blog associated with this presentation, as well as links to my professional online training that covers this and several other topics, and to my private practice where I apply a holistic approach in Minnesota and Washington. Now let's get into it. At the center of the HPG axis is a loop of exquisite communication between brain and body. It begins in the hypothalamus, that tiny but extremely significant region at the base of the brain that acts as the grand conductor of the endocrine orchestra. Here it releases gonadotropin-releasing hormone, or GnRH, in rhythmic pulses. These pulses stimulate the pituitary gland, which responds by secreting two key messengers, luteinizing hormone, or LH, and follicle-stimulating hormone, FSH. From here, LH and FSH travel through the bloodstream to the gonads, the ovaries in women, and the testes in men, prompting the production of estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. But here's where it gets interesting. These hormones don't just act on the body, they act on the brain. They feed back to the hypothalamus, the limbic system, the prefrontal cortex, influencing mood, motivation, cognition, and even the sense of self. Hormones, in this sense, are not just biochemical messengers, they're mediators between the soma and the psyche, the physical and the psychological. Let's talk about these three major players. Estrogen often gets the spotlight. It supports serotonin and dopamine signaling, sharpens verbal fluency, enhances social attunement, and contributes to mood stability. When estrogen levels dip, as they do premenstrually, postpartum, or during perimenopause, we can see anxiety, irritability, and depression emerge. Something similar occurs when estrogen levels increase, particularly the breakdown product estrone. In excess, it binds to estrogen receptors and has an anxiogenic or anxiety-generating response, leading to anxiety, irritability, and restlessness. Progesterone, on the other hand, acts like nature's built-in anxiolytic. It metabolizes into allopregnenolone, which binds to GABA A receptors, the same calming receptors targeted by benzodiazepines. Low progesterone can mean poor sleep, heightened anxiety, and a nervous system stuck in the on position. And testosterone, both in men and women, fuels drive, focus, confidence, and vitality. Low testosterone can manifest not just as fatigue and low libido, but also as apathy, cognitive dulling, and even existential flatness. In essence, these hormones shape the texture of our inner world, how vividly we feel, how we relate, and how we meet the world. The HPG axis never operates in isolation. It's a node in a much larger web. The HPA axis, governing stress, directly suppresses GnRH when cortisol is chronically elevated. This is why chronic stress can cause menstrual irregularity, low libido, or even temporary infertility. The thyroid, through the HPT axis, influences the sensitivity of gonadal tissues to hormones. Hypothyroidism can blunt ovulation, lower testosterone, and alter progesterone production. The gut microbiome plays a surprising role too. Certain bacteria in the estrobolome metabolize estrogen, so dysbiosis can lead to estrogen dominance or deficiency. The immune system participates as well. Inflammation alters receptor sensitivity, cytokines suppress reproductive hormones, and autoimmune diseases like Hashimoto's or endometriosis often arise when immune and endocrine boundaries blur. Each system reflects the others, a coherence or incoherence across the network. Now, here's where the psyche and soma really intertwine. Emotional trauma and chronic stress signal the hypothalamus through the amygdala, shaping how GnRH pulses. Early attachment wounds or unresolved grief can imprint dysregulated cycles in both nervous and hormonal rhythms. Conversely, when estrogen or testosterone fall, we lose access to neurotransmitters that stabilize mood and buffer stress. We become more reactive, more prone to anxiety, and less resilient to life's demands. So, dysfunction of the HPG axis can both cause and be caused by psychological suffering. It's bidirectional, and the healing must be too. Conventional testing usually stops at TSH, FSH, LH, estradiol, progesterone, and testosterone, maybe in the mid-luteal phase for women or morning testosterone for men. But a functional approach dives deeper. We can assess free versus total hormone levels for bioavailability, sex hormone binding globulin, SHBG, for insight into transport and tissue access, DHEAS as a precursor marker linking adrenal and gonadal function, metabolites on Dutch testing showing whether estrogen is being detoxified safely through the 2-hydroxy, 4-hydroxy, or 16-hydroxy pathways, cortisol patterns to map HPA influence, and organic acids and gut markers to trace microbial contributions to estrogen recycling. This broader view helps identify the why behind imbalance, not just the numbers, but the story. Restoring the HPG axis is not about forcing hormone levels, it's about restoring rhythms and coherence. This means regulating the HPA axis through breathwork, mindfulness, trauma-informed therapy, and adequate recovery time. It may also mean nutraceuticals or psychotropic agents to help with the stress. Supporting the gut and liver with fiber, cruciferous vegetables, probiotics, and reduced toxic burden to optimize hormone clearance. Replenishing nutrients like zinc, selenium, magnesium, B6, and omega-3s that are critical for hormone synthesis and receptor sensitivity. Encouraging movement, resistance training, and aerobic exercise improve insulin sensitivity and rise testosterone. Prioritizing sleep, melatonin rhythms influence GnRH pulsatility. For women, cycle mapping and support through phases using seed cycling, adaptogens, or targeted supplementation. For men, focus on cardiometabolic and immune health, weight regulation, and stress reduction before jumping to exogenous testosterone. And, perhaps most importantly, reconnecting to meaning and relationality, because belonging, purpose, and intimacy are the natural stimulants of the HPG axis. Let me give you a brief example. A 36-year-old female presented with mood swings, anxiety, and fatigue. She had been diagnosed with treatment-resistant depression and was on 2 antidepressants. When we looked deeper, we found irregular cycles, high cortisol, and low progesterone. Her Dutch testing showed impaired estrogen detoxification and a flat cortisol rhythm. Her gut testing revealed dysbiosis with low beta-glucuronidase activity, meaning her estrogen was being recycled excessively. We began by addressing the basics: sleep, nutrition, sleep patterns. We supported progesterone naturally through vitamin B6, magnesium, and stress reduction. We used gentle liver support and mindfulness to restore rhythmicity. Within 3 months, her mood stabilized, her cycles normalized, and she reported feeling like herself again. Not because we just treated a hormone, but because we treated the field, the interconnected web of psyche and soma. The HPG Axis is not just about fertility, it's about vitality. It's the biological rhythm through which life expresses passion, creativity, and connection. When we view it only through the lens of lab values, we miss the deeper truth: that our hormonal health mirrors the coherence of our entire system: emotional, relational, psychological, and even spiritual. When we bring compassion and understanding to that interface between psyche and body, healing becomes more than balancing numbers. It becomes the reawakening of the life force itself. If this resonates with you, I invite you to explore more of this mind-body connection through my blog and professional training program, all linked in the description below. If you're a clinician, this presentation only scratches the surface. Together, we can move toward a psychiatry that honors the rhythm of being human. Thank you.